Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Bobby's Business Club, the chat show. Bobby's Business Club is an online community of business owners, and we love to get together, collaborate online, and we also do things like this, which is a chat show. And what we do is we get our members to come on, they give us some more information about who they are, what they do, and how they help their clients. And we use this to promote their 1 hour presentation, which comes up in about 4 weeks' time. All this is then edited into content for our members as we create things such as LinkedIn posts, TikTok Reels, Facebook posts. So we really like to give back to our members by giving them more time and more space to be able to promote their business. I'd like to introduce two of our members today. We've got Caryn White from Caryn White. How are you today, Caryn?
I'm good, thanks, Bobby.
And we have Steve. Yeah, good. I'm happy to have you. And we have Steve Corney from Learn Awesome. How are you, Steve?
Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. Cool. I'd like to start with Caryn. Caryn White is a certified life coach based in Singapore, where she connects with people globally in an English-speaking world. Her mission is to serve the world through coaching, mentoring, and educating so that more people can be empowered to live their life they are meant to live authentically. Caryn, we have been networking together for about 1.5 years, I think now, and the growth I've seen you go through that journey is awesome, and I'm glad to have you on the show. So the first thing I have for you is, with your clients, what do you find are their most common pain points?
Yeah, thanks for that, Bobby. I know I was talking to a friend today about how long I've been networking with you. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's been a while, right? It's been a while, but it's been a great journey. Yeah, so for my clients, and I think people in general that I connect with, I think one of the biggest things that I find is their pain points is feeling stuck. And it's not so much that maybe they're not doing anything, like they are actually doing things, they're probably extremely busy, but it's really that feeling of feeling stuck, like you don't have a choice or you can't change because of your circumstances, or maybe you believe you can't change because it's too late in life or whatever. And a lot of that obviously then triggers the overthinking part of it, which is whenever I put up a poll, it's always like, do you feel this, this, and this? It's always overthinking. And I think from that then obviously comes to the point where they don't do anything. So that's the lack of action in the right direction to where they want to be. Like I said, they're doing things, but they just aren't doing what they really want to do. And then they feel like they feel like they don't have a purpose. They feel like they don't know what their passion is. They're just not sure. And so there's a lot of feeling stuck. And from that then ends up being that thing that we call procrastinating. So they end up procrastinating. They call themselves the procrastinator. And they get stuck. And that's probably the biggest thing. It's like the easiest way to kind of summarize it down to is just feeling stuck.
It kills so many ideas, doesn't it? It kills so much progression because we get stuck in our head. So I imagine it's very common for you to hear, I'm procrastinating, and is one of the reasons someone hasn't done something. What are your thoughts on this when you hear this? What do you do when someone goes, you know what, I've got this idea, I'm doing a million different things to get away from doing certain things. What do you do when you hear that from somebody?
Yeah, definitely. It's common. I mean, I'm guilty of that doing myself, like saying I'm a procrastinator or like using that as an excuse. And I think definitely something that I've learned through my journey is that we don't need to judge anyone about it. And that's you can kind of go, stop saying that. But it is really learning. I think as ourselves, we judge ourselves harshly enough. So we definitely don't need to put judgment on people, but it's really common. And I remember when I used to say that, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm procrastinating. That's why I'm not doing that. But obviously underneath that is like, why am I procrastinating? And a lot of the time, particularly in my work at the time, it would be because I didn't know what to do. Like I didn't have the knowledge and I didn't want to admit that I didn't know what to do. Because by saying that, obviously, then that makes me feel like I'm incompetent or, the old imposter type thing. So a lot of it is like, we say that we're procrastinating or we are a procrastinator. I mean, we never are a procrastinator. You're not that thing that you're saying. You actually are just not actioning anything as such. But it's easier to say than and use that as a justification and an excuse rather than facing the other side, which is I don't actually enjoy this, or I don't actually know what I'm doing, or I actually find this really boring, but I can't tell my boss, or I can't tell that person, or I actually, it's that kind of thing. And I think that's when I look at it and people say that they are procrastinating, it's really looking below that. And that can sometimes be really hard to do if you don't know how to do that. It can feel really scary. And it comes with that fear that maybe you're failing or you don't know what you're doing. So yeah, there's a lot behind that you have to unpack, I think. And that's when I hear people saying that, I'm like, yeah, there's something else going on.
interesting topic, isn't it? And like I said before, it can stop so many great ideas, or just going on to the next, even just starting a business, just the thought of having to go and do the books or work out even how to do that, even to find costs on something, to reach out to somebody and go, hey, this is what I want to do. Can you tell me how much that would cost? People get stuck on that part because they don't know how to approach somebody like that, or even would the business be open for me just to call them up and say that? And we have to learn that, and by learning allows us to get through that, and we have to take action, which obviously you're going to talk about at some point in your presentation. So as an industry such as coaching, and obviously at the moment it's not regulated, which is, could happen in the future, who knows? How do you build awareness of what a coach does versus a counselor, psychologist, mentor, or consultant?
Yeah, that's a really great question in that sense, because I think when I was doing my certification with Jay Shetty, one of the things that came up and I noticed a lot was there's quite a few like psychologists, therapists, counselors also doing the coaching certification. And I think I was surprised myself, because I initially went into this coaching feeling like it was similar, or at least the same. And then I realized that they were recognizing that there's another aspect to it, like coaching isn't the same. And then it was really interesting to see that they were recognizing that they wanted a certification, but they also wanted to learn that skill because they wanted to do the coaching side. So then it was looking at that and going, oh, okay, so what is that difference? And I think it's really important. One of the things we're taught is about ensuring that when we do contract with our clients, that we're quite clear to set those expectations of what they expect, what we're expecting, like what is that relationship we have. And one of the things I like to use is this metaphor, which we get taught, which is it talks about comparing like a consultant, a therapist, a counselor, and a coach and a mentor all together, and using the metaphor of driving a car. So most people have driven a car or are aware of someone that's driven a car. And so if you think about it, you go, okay, a therapist would explore what is stopping you from driving that car, right? And then a counselor will listen to your anxieties about driving that car or that car. A mentor would then share their experience of when they drove a car. A consultant would advise you and tell you how to drive that car, whereas a coach would encourage and support you in driving the car. And when you look at it that way, you go, oh, okay. So it's not like, one thing I heard the other day on one of our alumni calls is they're talking about the science of coaching. So it's not like we forget about all that stuff that's going on with this person. But as they shared with us, it's like, when we look at a client will come to us potentially, and they do come feeling like they're a bit broken. As a coach, you don't look at that person like they're broken. Obviously, if they need, there's obvious problems, they need like psychological help or therapists, we would refer them, because that's outside of my capabilities of what I can do. But we don't look at them like they're broken. We look at them like that they are whole, complete, and resourceful, in the sense that they've got a lot of noise going on. They've got a lot of stuff going on. They're trying to figure out what it is, but inside them, they've got the answers. And we help them build that in a coach. And that's quite different to, say, a therapist, counselor, if you've had that experience, and particularly a mentor in that. And I myself, I mentor people as well. So I've got to be really careful that when I'm in a coaching relationship, that if that person is looking for mentoring, then I'm making sure I'm contracting with them about that and being quite clear about what that means. So yeah, it's definitely something that it's really important to, from the very get-go, to make sure that that's clear, because there are lots of assumptions. Like you said, it's unregulated. There's people that say they're coaches, and I've met lots of them in programs I've been in that have never coached before, not even in their workplace. And then there's people that have coached maybe in a workplace, and they're coming through and just starting their own businesses because they have the expertise, but they don't necessarily, they are more in a bit of a mentor advisor type role as well. And so then that can kind of make it confusing when you come from, like, say, my perspective, which is coaching is about encouraging them, supporting them, and realizing that they have the answer within them the whole time. So yeah, does that answer the question?
It does. I think it's a great example with the car that you gave. When I read the notes before we came on today, I was intrigued to see what the answer was going to be. I think you nailed it with those examples, and it makes it very clear to people why you can have each of those people in your team, and they're all going to deal with certain different aspects of what's going on in your world. I've had mentors, I've had business coaches, and it's needed, because sometimes you don't have all the answers, but you just need that little bit of a prompt to be able to go forward and have that safe space to be able to speak to them about whatever you need to speak about. And that's why it's important to have someone like that. So tell us more about your event, which is switch from I love the name, from procrastination to aligned action in 3 simple steps, plus a bonus tip for you to avoid procrastination altogether. So tell me, what can guests expect from your event?
Yeah, so we don't want to give too much away, right?
Little teasers, just little teasers.
Little teasers. Okay, little teasers. Let me think. Yeah, so my event is, when I was thinking about the topic, as you know, because we network together, it's like, oh, what should I do? What should I do? Yeah, and so I was procrastinating, and I'm like, oh, that's something. And so I went from there, and I can draw upon many, many times in my life where I've done that. And one that I will be sharing within this presentation is one that took me 17 years to do, something that I should have done a lot earlier, but I never realized I was procrastinating. So it's really sharing a 3-step process, which I've learned, that is quite simple, but once you learn how you procrastinate, and the idea of the event will be is so you can actually spot the procrastinating, and then learning to stop, and then realize what's going on beneath that, like I was talking about, and then working out how you can swap that out to actually get that action going. And so the event is to just be like me. I mean, obviously I will be talking a lot. I do like to talk, but it will be also around the idea of giving clear action steps for every step, and making sure that it's something they can take away straight away, as opposed to, oh, you need to do this then to do this. It's like, pick something in your personal life or your business life, something that's nagging at you, which is what I did, and then go, hang on. Because the minute I realized that procrastination wasn't the bad habit, it was actually the lack of action, and the avoiding was the habit, I was able to then go, oh, I can do that. I can action something. And then it was like breaking that down. So this is going to be about going through the 3 steps, sharing my story as an example behind it, so you can kind of hopefully resonate. There's a story behind that, but with clear action steps through it. And then, like you said, a bonus tip at the end of how you can skip it all over, completely, because that's a good thing. But also recognizing that everyone procrastinates. I was going through researching different things of traits of procrastinators and what they do, and I'm like, oh, that's procrastination. Realize that it is. Then I'm like, oh my God, my daughter procrastinates all the time.
Yeah.
And it's little subtle things, but you realize by doing that builds up a habit for the bigger things, right? So yeah, lots of talking that, just really building that awareness for everybody, then going, okay, what can you do now to get some action and get it going?
And you touched on something I was going to mention, and when I saw the title and what you were going to be presenting on, that it makes you realize that most people procrastinate or don't take action, and it makes you feel a bit about yourself, because you think that, oh, it must be only me. Jeff Bezos, he surely doesn't have it. I'll guarantee you there's going to be some stuff that he's procrastinated on. There's always going to be something. It doesn't matter how successful you are. We all have the same kind of insecurities, and I used to have the same kind of thing when we worked in corporate. I know, Caryn, you're from corporate as well, and I'd be always fearful of speaking to the CEO, because I think, oh my God, this person's like the CEO. But they have the same insecurities as everyone else. It's still kind of, and to have someone present on this to make them realize it's not just you, and there's actions you can take to get around that. I think it's going to be really, really helpful for people to watch. So I know that you love a good book, but you didn't always love books, did you? So tell me more about that.
Yeah, no.
I hate it.
Yeah. No, I vividly remember. Definitely, for a very long time, I avoided English. And there was some insecurities around that as well, I think, thinking back about it. But yeah, I love books now. I read them all the time. I just, either listening to them, reading them, and I just really love just sitting down with a good book and just chilling out. So to think back to when I was much younger, and I would, you had these little journals back, because I'm reasonably old, you'd have these little journals back then, and you'd had to get signed by your parents, and you get a book, you have to take it home, they'd sign it and stuff. And being one of 4 kids, I would just be like, I'm not doing that today. And I'd write a little initial. And I avoided that, and I managed to avoid it. Thankfully now I'm not too bad at English, so I can do good things and stuff. But yeah, it was, I just didn't enjoy it. But it was the whole thing that I had two sisters who were very clever with English. So that was part of it. That was part of the insecurity and the belief that I could never be as good as them. So I wouldn't try doing things they were really good at. So there was a lot behind that, which I didn't realize. But, you know, gradually I found books which I really loved. You know, I started watching the movie, but then I wanted to know more from the book, and that's how I built it. So I'm really conscious for my kids, particularly as they're learning to enjoy books, is not to push that, because I remember feeling like it was a chore and I didn't enjoy it, and I pushed back for a long time. But now finding books that I enjoy, really resonating with them, having that time and that experience, sitting down with a book and enjoying it, whether it's a paperback or my phone or something like that, yeah, completely different. So yeah.
I'm going to throw you under the bus now. What are your favorite books right now?
Right now, well, one I just read or listened to was the Bob Proctor, Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life. Yeah, I love that. That was a really good book. I've got I reckon 10 books sitting right over here that people go, oh, you should get this one. Oh, so yeah, so I'm sort of at the moment, I'm still figuring out what my next one's going to be. So if you've got ideas, please share.
Maybe Steve. I'm not much of a reader, but there's I've got maybe an audio book now and again, a film, but I do love the film way more than the book. But Steve, if you've got any books that you've got any recommendations, we'll come to you in a moment. So Facebook Lives, you know, like I say, I've seen you grow from this person who didn't even want to do a 45-second pitch, and now we see content coming out across platforms and beautiful content, which it is. And now you're doing Facebook Lives. Is that right?
Yeah, no, that's the plan. Is after the event, I feel like, you know, you want to end procrastination. It's all good to turn up and watch, you know, do the chat show that I'm going to be doing. But it's definitely, I know myself, you know, you need to maybe go, okay, did I get that right? Like, what am I doing? And realistically, you already know what you're doing, but I'm going to be doing that afterwards. I'm holding myself accountable to do it too, because I was like, what's something that I could do to kind of really just support people with this? So it is like, I think Facebook for me is where some of my community between there and LinkedIn hang out. So it is about going on there and having something there where we will like talk about steps that we talked about, but also like the bonus tip, really embedding that as well, which is hopefully to skip some of the procrastination and being really simplifying it down and allowing people to kind of come in there. And I know there'll be people that will be like, oh, I'm not going to go up to live. I'm just going to watch the replay later. So there's going to be a group that you can join. You can just jump in there, grab the replays and that kind of stuff. And it's all free, obviously, because it's just about supporting and helping people. You don't need to, like, literally 17 years it took me to do this one thing. Yeah. People don't need to be doing that. I mean, really life is too short for that, definitely. Totally. Like I say, I'm really proud of you and the growth from going from not even be able to do a 45-second elevator pitch to now doing Facebook Lives. I'm really proud to be part of your network. So you can join Caryn at our switch from procrastination to aligned action in 3 simple steps on the 24th of November at 2 p.m. Brisbane time. All of Caryn's details are in the description of the video. If you want to reach out to her to connect, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, obviously you can reach out to myself and I'll happily do that for you. But Caryn, thank you so much, not only for your time, but also being a great friend and being a great networker. And I love having you around, and thanks for jumping on the show today. You're welcome. Thank you.
No problem. And so over to our next guest. His name is Steve Corney. He is the owner of Learn Awesome, which is a digital experience agency that has 3 components. Digital Ed, helping you digitize your knowledge. Events Lab, building and running engaging, interactive and education events, and integrate a full suite tech CRM and human-centered automation platform, which he calls the Glue. Steve, welcome, mate. You know, you're a legend. I love meeting with you. I love having you on, as part of Bobby's Business Club. You always have something to give. You've got so much experience and knowledge around this, and you're open with that, and you give without wanting to receive. I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Dude, that's what happens when you've got like all this stuff in your head that you just can't get out. Like I'm trapped. I've deliberately trapped myself in this like small box just so I stay on topic. But
come on, let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. Like,
all right.
Steve is such a great boss. He's got his staff a bit of a sauna going on, and we were trying to get him to actually wear a proper birthday suit. Let's call
proper sauna attire. Yes. No, I am breaking the rules of engagement in the sauna, but when it's raining on the tin roof outside, this is the only place where I could do this presentation justice. So audio is everything, and so hopefully it's coming through okay.
Beautifully, mate. I can hear every word. So what are the key considerations when thinking about digitizing your knowledge?
Yeah, look, I think this is the crux of what Learn Awesome's all about. And I think, being an owner of something and starting your own business, it's just an excuse to call it what you want and come up with your own title, right? So for a long time, I used to just give out cards that said I was a legend in my own lunchbox and just completely took the piss out of the entire rest of the business world in an effort to just make a laugh of it. But ultimately, that's what Learn Awesome is. So digitizing knowledge comes in so many shapes and forms, and the benefit of where we are today in 2022 is that knowledge is accessible now compared to how it was back in all of our days on this call. Because when I was a kid, if I had to find the answer to something, I'd either have to call someone and ask them. Mum would be like, "Oh, call your Uncle Dave or call Grandma or Grandpa. They know the answer to this." And then they'd usually tell me part of it, and then I'd go to the encyclopedia at the library and read that, and then I'd get a little bit more, and then I'd get a little bit more, and slowly but surely I'd piece together all this information. But now, what a privilege to be alive in 2022, where I can just Google, how do I do ... What's the answer for this? The challenge, though, is that our younger generation have to remember that the first thing that you find is not necessarily the truth. And so that's something that us as older, wiser members of society can help impart that knowledge of. Don't believe the first thing you read, do a bit of research, because that's how we grew up without the benefits of technology probably in our earlier years. But yeah, look, digitizing your knowledge is a really cool thing. And so you can do it to protect your knowledge. So if you're a business, we work with clients where they've got a heap of knowledge, or they've got a heap of smart people. So if Bobby disappeared from Bobby's business club, could Bobby's business club still run without him? If the answer's I'm not sure or maybe, then you have a knowledge risk, which we can fix with the advent of technology. We can record your knowledge, we can record your processes, and basically download your brain. And we can do that for free while you work at Bobby's Business Club, or if you're an employee of a business. But as soon as you leave, and you'd know this all too well in the recruitment space, Bobby, if I leave with all this knowledge and then you then get brought in to try and replace me, guess what's happening? 2 weeks later, I'm coming back into the business that I left on $2,000 a day rate as a consultant, and I'm going to milk the system for all it's worth, because it could have been avoided if that knowledge was captured. So I mean, that's just one aspect. Two other areas that not digitizing knowledge comes in is if you want to teach your clients or teach your prospective customers how to fish or how to do something that you do. So Caryn was talking about how she's running a fantastic event earlier about how to do some stuff. And what that does is it's teaching people who are interested or have challenges or want to work in this particular space or learn from experts in this particular space. It gives you the ability to prove yourself as the expert, but also give people the most valuable thing on earth, which is knowledge. And so when you teach someone how to do something, you build trust like nothing else. There's no other medium that can do it other than you teaching someone how to do something. So it respects people enough to give them a chance to learn how to do what you do. Chances are they'll realize, man, it's really hard to do what Caryn does, what Steve does, what Bobby does. So when they're ready to make that decision to engage a consultant or a coach, they're going to pick the person who respected them enough to have a crack at it themselves in the first place. So teaching people how to fish is massive. And then the final one is, it's a favorite of mine, is the commercialization of knowledge. So how do you take the knowledge from your head and turn it into a course, a program, a masterclass series that you can actually either generate some additional revenue, or it could actually become your entire revenue, because the online education space is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, and it is going in the north direction because everyone wants to learn stuff, but the way that people learn stuff, and this is what we specialize in, the way that it's structured is the thing that makes or breaks it, or that makes it successful or not. So yeah, that's sort of how we roll in the digital knowledge space.
Yeah, mate, and you're talking about how phones and all this knowledge has changed how we do things in life. Do you guys remember when you used to have to phone the cinema and it was an automated voice, and you'd have to wait for your film time to come up, and it was always be the last one, and you'd be like, was that 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock? I had to go all the way again. I'm a nightmare. And also your teacher going, you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket when you're walking around. No, you're right.
That's right.
I can now have anything I want.
How's that though, mate? Like seriously. So the whole paradigm of education and Caryn, you've got children, Bobby. I'm not sure if you've got smart. That's probably why you live on an island with water out the front of you. Jokes. But
No, I'm not in a
even-
sauna right now, mate.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Maybe this is where I live. Who knows? Like we can't judge, can we? But like you look at the education system, where when I went through high school and primary school, it was you need to rote learn the history of Australia. That's a whole year of subject, the history, 7th grade history. You need to learn this, dude. Really? Like I can just Google it now. So I think it's a benefit that we've paved the way and we've had to like suck it up and go through that way. But at the same time, it's no longer about how good your memory is. It's like I can learn how to do something very, very quickly, but at what level and to the quality depends on how I sort of go and approach and go and find and gather my information. So there's still a point or a purpose for education, but I think it has to have shifted now because just having a memory, like my doctor, for example, I go to the GP. I expect him to Google. Like if my doctor doesn't Google where my arm muscle hurts, I get worried because I'd rather them be an expert at the actual diagnosis as opposed to being able to impress me with their memory. So it's a really interesting space to be involved in for sure.
That's a great point. Especially about the doctor. So what? There's more knowledge on Google because of the amount of people who put information on there. And I wanted to make one last point before we move on, that when you were saying about don't take the first thing you see as the answer, and Google have a lot to answer for in this, because now you can pay to be the first answer. So when you're on Google, don't think just because that first answer is there that someone's paid for, doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's the right business for you, doesn't mean it's the right information. Someone's paid to be at the top of that page, so just be careful.
You don't know though, do you, mate? Like that, like that's the hard thing. It's really easy to be critical on the people that get sucked into this sort of thing. But if you really unpack it, it's like you born in a world where technology existed. Whereas I usually say to people, I'm from the pre-internet generation. So I was born and I went through my formative years before the internet was actually a thing. And so I remember the dial-up internet. I still remember, downloading a 1 megabyte file overnight because I could, and it was like the coolest thing ever. Mum getting upset because I'd used like 30 megabytes of the internet plan and it cost her like $1,000. Like that sort of thing's cool, but we know that there's other ways or other perspectives. And I think it's called confirmation bias. I think that's the bias, is where you believe the first thing that you see, and that becomes the idea. But the algorithms are set against you as well, because there was a study, or I think it was even on a Netflix doco, so it must be true if it's on a Netflix documentary, right? But they say that, they throw out these statistics that, 50% of people in this room are smokers, and there's 2 people in the room, but they don't tell you what the base is. But someone will listen to that and they'll go, oh, whoa, smoking's bad for you. Yeah, yes, it is. But like, let's get some more information before we like fall in love with that decision or that hypothesis, for sure.
Exactly, mate. And moving on to the next question, and this is pretty relevant to obviously what we do here at Bobby's Business Club, but why digital events are the most underrated thing in your marketing arsenal?
Oh yeah, digital events. So it's a curse and it's a privilege at the same time, right? So COVID was awesome for businesses who are ready to forcefully jump into the unknown. And so we had clients that called us the day that Melbourne got locked down. Can I borrow your Zoom account? I don't have one. Like, okay, you missed the boat, dude. Versus people were prepping for the zombie apocalypse for years and they were ready and they embraced it. But in terms of digital events, I think the world has used Zoom a lot. We're using Zoom right now. There's nothing wrong with it, but I think there is such a thing as Zoom fatigue, and it's to do with the way that the information or the way that the sessions that get run on Zoom are structured and delivered, which have then led to people getting fatigued. And it's just purely because you haven't thought about audience engagement, you haven't thought about audience interactivity, and then you haven't really thought about the way to get that content across so that an actionable outcome to do either during the event or after it. So, when it comes to digital events, the benefits of them are that they are infinitely scalable compared to a face-to-face live event. You think about like I think you were talking about, you went to the franchise conference or expo the other day. You got to pay for the ticket, you got to pay for the transport, you got to pay for your food, you got to take time off work, you've got to do all this sort of stuff. So, logistically, it's not just the ticket price that a live event happens. If you're the event organizer, you got to pay for the venue, you got to organize the booths, you got to probably chop down a rainforest to print off a whole bunch of stuff that no one's going to use past the day anyway. You've got to organize all your stuff. Like it's it's just a pretty decent experience. Whereas a digital event, you can spin those up really quickly. So as long as you've got like this, you've got the session dialed in and it's educational, it's informative, interactive, and engaging, cool. But then you've got like the power of Zoom, you've got the power of breakout rooms, you've got the power of collaboration boards, you've got all this other cool tech that allows you to do this stuff. And now you're respecting the audience. You're saying, hey, listen, you don't have to travel. You don't have to get out of your pajamas if you don't want. You can jump in and dial in and be here across the world. You can go across time zones. And the beauty of it, this is being recorded. Guess what? We do it once. Once we've finished the event live, the event then becomes evergreen, and you can basically build a structure that then allows it to work for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, in whatever format that you want. Maybe it brings you leads. Maybe it just gets your face out there. Maybe it just helps people on the regular, or maybe it's a paid program and it builds you revenue. We've got clients who run digital events 4 times a year, and it covers the business expenses of their live business. So, you know, it's a really cool place to be, and it is underrated because it's so scalable and so easy to get out to the world.
It is, and if anything, the digital world is going to, you know, increase, and it's going to, you know, take in a lot more businesses, and we're going to see, especially as technology gets better, and we talk about things like the metaverse and all this stuff that Facebook want to do, and you know, it's never going to go away. But all of this is great, but we still need content to go around it. So how can people create content if they're not sure, not comfortable on camera, or not sure where to start? What would your advice be?
Yeah, shout out to you, mate, because this format is fantastic. I think one of the biggest challenges that people have is that they just don't know where to start. So if someone asks you a question, guess what? Pretty happy to talk about yourself for a little while, aren't you? So, you know, people have just got to realize that there's just so many ways that you can skin this cat, but doing nothing gets you nowhere. We have one client at the moment. It's a 1 in 1,000 client that comes along and goes, I don't want to be the face of anything. Steve, can you learn all of my subject matter? Can you teach my workshops for me? And I'll just get the credit as the creator. And so we're like, reluctantly, yes, because it's good fun for us. It's a good challenge for me. But yeah, everyone's got something that they can talk about. And if it's your business, if it's anything, the key is that, yeah, you grab this and you shoot, and you just shoot and shoot and shoot. And it doesn't have to be polished in the sense of, it doesn't have to be a cinematic Oscar-winning performance. People buy from people. People want to connect with you. I was having a chat with a friend of mine this afternoon. She's like my sister, and I go over there. She's a feeder, so she's like, "What do you want me to make you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just come to see you. Like, I miss you." And so I ended up having eggs on toast and avocado and all sorts of crazy stuff. She's a life coach as well, and she's done a different certification to say yourself, Caryn. But we were talking about, you know, hey, people are either going to resonate with you or they're not. But it's okay that they don't. It's okay that not everyone's going to want to work with you, because that's beautiful self-selection. So that the people that are interested in your style or in your methodology or your process, the only way that they're going to know that you're for them is if you give them the opportunity to learn something from you or see you. So that's why, again, the cost of going to rent the local hall out and setting that up and then inviting all your friends to it, or inviting, you know, some people and having no one show up, that's demoralizing. That's brutal. Digital events don't cost that much to set up. In actual fact, you can set them up for $0, just a bit of time. And then if people don't rock up, you still run the event, because you've then got a recording that you can then repurpose. So you can either cut it into promotional pieces, you can cut it into smaller little workshops, you could build an online course from it, you could then just run it as an on-demand webinar for all of eternity. So there's so much value and so many compelling reasons to do it. So yeah, the key though is to just to start. So you pick your topic, make sure that you're educating, make sure that you've got some audience engagement or some interaction in some way, shape or form, and then just leverage the power of Zoom or Google Meet to do it.
And you know, it can be something as simple as this. And how we do this is we structure it. We gave Steve and Caryn a questionnaire. They fill it in. That gives us the questions to ask to be able to create this content. And so if you're wanting to start creating content, then just get a friend to jump on a Zoom, give them the questions to ask you. They ask you, you just answer it. You answer the questions, you record it. All of a sudden, you've got, you know, all this content that you can create into posts and TikToks and all this kind of stuff. It's we just have to. I think someone to go and speak to Caryn first to get over the procrastination and the action, and then they come to Steve and then get it done, mate. That's how it is. So tell us more about your event, Digitising Your Knowledge, and the secret superpowers it unlocks, and what can guests expect.
Yeah, so I guess if I think there's this old saying that those that can't do teach, and those that can't teach physical education. So it's like a crack at the gym teachers. They say, but I think it's the moral of that story is you got to practice what you preach, right? So I think for a lot of people, and this is why I love the space that I'm in, right? So we have clients that are at all stages of the process, right? So we've got these brand newbies that have never run an event, they're just starting their business. Cool. We've got people that are doing six-figure events, and they're absolutely making an absolute killing and just doing all sorts of crazy stuff online, smashing it. The challenge for brand newbies though is that they're going to do it themselves. There's a time suck, right? So instead of paying for services, you're going to pay with your time, and that's fine because you have to do that until you get some runs on the board to be able to pay for people to do your bidding, basically taking away those horrible tasks so that you can focus more on your business. So us teaching people how to do stuff, that's part of the jam as well. So we're happy to invest the time to give that knowledge away and show you exactly how you do it. All the tools, all the systems, everything you need, that's how you go and do it if you want to do it yourself. We're here to help you if you want. So there's an option to get us to just take all that pain and hassle away from you. But the most important thing about our workshops and our events like this one is that, it's a paint by numbers approach. This is what you need to have. This is the tools. This is the content. This is how you set it up. This is how you execute it. Let's go and do it. And come and see us if you need a hand. And again, it just sort of practices what we preach. We're teaching people how to fish. We build know, like, trust, so that when someone's ready to step up their event quality, or they want to do a more scaled version, or there's some gaps that in their knowledge that they don't have, they're going to reach out to the people that respected them enough to teach them how to do it, which might be us, or it might be someone else that we know that we can refer and recommend. So that's what we're going to be covering.
Sounds really exciting, and any knowledge that we can take in from other people, experts. This is why we need to listen to people who are better than us, or experts in fields that we don't understand. Is go and learn from them, and then try and implement what we can in our business. And if we can't do that ourselves, then there's obviously a service there already that we can go and say, hey, I'm happy to pay you to come and show me and do this for me. And so there's a couple of options there. And I know that some magical way back in the day, you cloned yourself into 3 versions, and somehow you did 3 masterclasses to finance execs live on Zoom. How did you do 3 different Zooms? What was?
Yeah, it was at the same time. It was I don't like the confines of the rules. So we were doing some work for NAB and their private wealth banking business. And the project manager at the time's like, oh, we've got all these workshops that we need to run. There's no way, Steve, that you can run all of these in like this confined time frame. So we had 80 webinars to run in March a few years ago. And I'm like, oh yeah, challenge accepted, no worries. But I challenged the one thing that everyone thought you had to do in Zoom, which was be live. So I thought, hang on, what I had to do was because it was the same masterclass, right? It was the same topic. What if I just recorded myself delivering the masterclass and made it perfect? So this is a great tip for those people who are a bit nervous about delivering live. Record the damn thing, edit it, make it perfect, make it comfortable without the live audience, without the stress, without the hassle, and then just press play. And so I press play simultaneously 3 times, just like the old, you could press play on the record button on the old cassette player to record your favorite song off the radio. So I pressed play on 3 laptops, like simultaneously. And then all I did was I just manned the chat across 3 Zoom instances. That's all I was doing for an hour. It was ridiculous. And it worked. And it wasn't until I actually stopped the video that someone was like, what were you playing just then? And I'm like, oh no, never mind, guys. Have a great day. Enjoy your Thursday. See you later. And I got away with it. It was phenomenal. Wow. But it challenged that. Everyone's like, oh, you can't deliver a recorded video on a live Zoom. Why not? I always ask that question, why not? We ask why so many times it drives people crazy. Yeah. But no one could tell me the difference between a live presentation of a masterclass, so me talking to PowerPoint slides as an example, compared to a video of me talking to those same PowerPoint slides. Because the key thing that makes Zoom so cool is the third dimension, which is the chat. So if you can nail Zoom chat, and if you can manage the chat really effectively, then it just enhances your presentation. So why not just record it, make it perfect, and then live in the chat while your presentation's going on? Amazing.
That's interesting. And so when you were talking in the chat, were you talking as yourself, or were you saying that you were somebody else?
No, I was just me. I was just me. So then there was some smart people that were paying attention. They're like,
how can you do that?
How are you so quick on the chat and you're still talking simultaneously? Like, people were like, dang, you're an amazing facilitator, Steve. I'm like, sure, okay, no problems. But yeah, it was cool to just, again, it's taking the piss a little bit because that's a little bit of my style, and it's challenging the conventional norms. But at the same time, if you think about now scalability, you could do that. It's now changed the game, and we were able to run 80 webinars over the course of March to teach this new software rollout that was going on at NAB. And the only way that I was able to do it was because I couldn't grab the subject matter experts and have them teach for 80 hours. So instead, I go, okay, this topic's the same 5 times this week. Can you record me one at home on the weekend when you've got some time? Send it to me, and I'll just man the chat. Done. So all I had to do was just, for the month of March in this case, it was just me on the chat, just beautiful.
I love it. So as you can see, Steve is a very much out-the-box thinker. So if you'd love to learn more from Steve, his details are going to be in the chat. And obviously, you can reach out to me and I can do an introduction if you'd like that. Or you can join Steve at our Digitising Your Knowledge and the Secret Superpowers It Can Unlock event on the 1st of December at 9 a.m. That's Brisbane time. Not our usual time, but Steve's a bit of a jet setter. He's going to be in the US at that time. So we have to be a bit...
Thanks for the reminder. Thanks.
Good man. But guys, thank you so much for jumping on the show. Thanks for giving us your knowledge. Thanks for helping and supporting the wonderful world of business around Australia and the world, whoever watches this. They're 2 great people. They're very open with their time. So highly always recommend a one-to-one. You never know where it's going to take you. Remember, it's never that person you're talking to. They've got a whole network of people around them who they could help and introduce you to. So don't think that you come on a one-to-one just to maybe sell Steve something or sell Caryn something. It's never about that. It's always about the network that they know, and build that connection and help people out. That's what I say. Help people, the universe will help you back. But Caryn and Steve, thanks so much for jumping on the show, and I'll see you very soon.
Thank you.
See you guys. Ciao.